I don't think our next speaker needs any introduction, but could you please welcome Dick McCarver?
Thank you. Welcome to Hawaii. When we decided to have a convention in Hawaii, I don't know when it first was, but I've been to several and I've always enjoyed them. But I have never seen a crowd like this. I've never seen one as colorful as this. It's a real joy to see all of you here. I'd like to talk for a few minutes this morning about the touch. When Larry first mentioned to me that he would like some time spent on the touch, and I was to give him a topic, an area that I was going to concentrate on, I had a real difficulty. And as I went home a couple of days later, I got a copy of a newsletter from my high school alumni group. That goes back a long, long way. And I noticed an announcement that Mr. and Mrs. Roy Perrin had passed away. And it really hit me. And I knew then what part of the touch I wanted to talk about. When I was 13 years old, growing up in a small town in southeast Missouri, and my parents decided that what I needed was to get away, and they sent me to a boarding school in another small town in northern Missouri, but still up. I met Roy and Fern Perrin, he was the principal of our school. And he was my introduction probably to the touch. I really didn't realize it till after I read the announcement of his passing. He and his wife were killed in an automobile accident. And it's taken me 30-some years to realize that his brand of the touch was an extra special kind. When I was 13, 14, 15, whatever, and I was there for 4 years. In the evening, after we had our chapel service, it was a parochial school, we had chapel, we had supper, we had a play period. Now this was back in the days when kids, even teenagers, played. And if you remember being young and playing Wolf Over the Ridge or Dare Base, or any of you remember these games where you chased one another across all over, we had a commons of about 4 acres, and the whole high school body would get out there and play games in the warmer weather. And Mr. Perrin was always there. I thought it was because he liked to play. And it took me 30 years to realize that he had other things to do. He had a family at home. He had lots of responsibilities. But he was always there for us. He never ran the program. He was there. They chose sides, like kids have always done. And then he just sort of appointed himself to whichever he considered the weaker side, and the game began. He was always the target when anybody was chasing anyone. To get him was the best thing, and he ran and played harder. And he was out there most nights. And I thought it was because he just liked it. I think he did. But I didn't realize at what cost. He played with us night after night after night. The suppers that he missed with his family. But the commitment that he had to us as students, and the bond that grew up between us, was something it's never been broken. And I believe the man was practicing the touch in its very finest application. Years later, in probably 1977, when I was teaching school, his brother was on the staff of the school where I was teaching. And he came to visit. And he came down to my classroom and asked if he could sit in and just observe. And afterwards told me I had done a good job, and I felt very pleased. And he still cared. His wife was the director of the cafeteria. She was confidant to most of us. She listened to our problems. After we'd broken up with our latest girlfriend and the world was bleary and bleak, we always talked to Fern. And this was their life, and it was our life. And it was there, and we were part of it. As we were planning this convention and talking about the touch, it's this point of involvement. It reminds me of the story of the hen and the pig talking about breakfast. Have you ever heard that story? And the pig says to the chicken, "You know, from you they only need a contribution. From me they need real commitment." And our managers give that kind of commitment. It's easy to pass someone in the hallway and say, "Hi, how are you? Have a nice day." But our managers, our style of the touch is one of involvement. And I can remember many times when I've been in buildings over the years and certain situations where we had managers that left quickly because of I remember one situation, a death in a family, and the co's were on vacation, and I ended up in the facility. And we were trying to get activities together, and I went out and rented some movies and put up an announcement that we would be playing a movie on the television, on the VCR, and everybody was invited down, and I got, big zeros. Next time I tried it, I said, "We're going to have movie and popcorn." It was a little better. The next night I got on the microphone, I said, "I'm down here watching a movie by myself with popcorn and I'm lonesome." And I got a whole room full. And it reminds me of my kids, and probably your kids, saying, "Daddy or Mommy, would you come out and play with us?" And residents saying to managers, "Would you come and play with us?" And I can remember years ago at Corvallis, we bought a croquet set for the place. Nothing happened until a manager got out there with the croquet set, and then there were lots of people. No manager, no participation. It was that involvement, that touch that they needed, and it's what we practice daily. It's what makes our company special. It's what makes you special. I believe that the touch is an empowerment that goes both ways. It benefits those who receive it, and it benefits greatly those who give it. Those who touch and those who are touched both benefit from this. And I believe that because of that, our residents prosper, and it's very obvious that Holiday has also prospered. When did the touch begin in this company? Well, we talked about it and probably gave it a name 4 or 5 years ago. We sent out the copies of the movie, The Doctor. We paid our managers to go see The Doctor. How many of you went and saw that movie? It was a movie about a doctor who got sick and became the patient and felt what it was like to be on the receiving end of his profession instead of on the contributing end. He didn't like it. He'd been the doctor, and that was fine. He did not like being the patient. He didn't like the way they were treated. Not cruelly, but was just sort of a casualness. He was left waiting in the waiting room for ages. He didn't like that. He had things to do. He had time. His time was important also. He hadn't thought about that when he was a doctor. So we paid our managers to go look at this, to find out another view of the touch. And we started pushing the touch. But it didn't begin there. I guess my first experience with the touch in Holiday was at my first convention in Hawaii. It was my first convention with Holiday. It was a very exciting event for me. It was probably, Larry, I don't know the date, probably 1984 when we were at the Sheraton Waikiki. Big group, really exciting. We had a room probably as big as the stage here. most of us from Salem rode to the airport in one of somebody's, I can't remember whose, a motorhome. We all came from the airport to the hotel in the same bus. And in my recollection, I've tried to figure it out, there must have been 35 of us, or 40 maybe, probably 35. And I was recently divorced. I was there with my 3 daughters. And we walked into our hotel room, and here was this beautiful panoramic view of the ocean. And the kids were absolutely excited. And I remember talking to Bill Colson and Jim Huddart and thanking them for the nice room. And one of them, I can't remember which one, said to me, you know, we thought your kids would enjoy that. It was just a touch. It was just a little touch to make things better. And it did. And I can't remember a time that we haven't had the touch around this company. I hope all of you appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you realize that this convention is a touch. It's a touch of class. But I believe the best for the best is a real special thing for you, each of you. You've done it, you've earned it, but it is a touch. And our residents, they appreciate your touch. I didn't bring the letter. Larry brought his letters. I didn't bring mine, but I got a Valentine card from one of the residents. And it was the nicest thing. Just thanking us for being there for her. And these are not uncommon. But touch, the involvement kind of touch, is something that I would like to encourage for each of you. It does take a commitment. It's not like the egg at breakfast. It's more like the bacon. You have to put yourself into it. And I don't believe that Mr. Perrin always felt like running around that field being chased by a bunch of teenagers. And when they tagged him, most of us got tagged on the back. They seemed to like to knock him down when they did it. And when he played touch football with us, he never got touched. He seemed to get tackled. And he was a nice guy. He was a stern disciplinarian. He was a sharp dresser. And he was unrelenting in his desire for excellence in the school. And he was a very, very special man, and I'll always remember him. But more than that, I'll remember the touch. The caring for a 13-year-old kid from southern Missouri. And his part in my life in telling me that I could do something, that I could go to college. And then watching me from then on. And coming and visiting my classroom years after. He'd been in Haiti as a missionary and had returned to Salem where I was teaching. And taking the time to come and see me. That's a holiday kind of person. I hope that's the kind of person that each one of us want to be. And that touch will never cease to be part of Holiday Retirement Corporation. And each of us will receive the benefits and the blessings that come with it, as well as the residents to whom we have been entrusted with it, in many cases their last days. And we make them special places, special times, and I know they appreciate it. I thank you all for all of your efforts in the behalf of Holiday Retirement Corporation, and especially of our customers. Thank you very much.